The town of Dry Creek always woke slow, as though even the sun hesitated to climb the ridge. Dust drifted over everything, windows, wagons, even the throats of men who rose too early. On mornings like that, Elias Boone walked with his head low, boots tapping on tired boards, his shadow longer than his name. 35 years had carved his face into stone, yet behind his gray eyes lingered something softer, a gentleness no one thought to look for. He was known as a man of silence, one who worked the land until his hands split and bled, and who carried sorrow the way others carried pocket knives, close, hidden, and always ready to cut. That was the morning she appeared. Winyan Luda, wrapped in a shawl the color of storm clouds, stood near the mercantile door. Her hair, black and heavy as wet river rock, caught the light in sudden flashes. She bore herself with quiet dignity, though her eyes carried the miles of her people's long road. Some men spat into the dirt when they passed her. Women whispered behind half-raised hands. Children stared, then hid. To them, she was a mark of difference in a town that forgave none. Elias's eyes lingered, not long enough to be noticed, but long enough for something in his chest to ache. Gossip came quick, as it always did. A trinket gone missing from the general store, and before truth could be weighed, suspicion already found a body. Winyan. She did not shout her innocence. She stood calm as the sheriff's voice rose above the murmurs, his finger heavy as a pistol barrel when he pointed her out. By sundown, the town gathered in the square, eager for spectacle. Elias found himself there, though every step closer felt like betrayal to his own quiet life. The sentence was 30 lashes. The sheriff's words were final, and the crowd rustled like restless grass. She bowed her head, shoulders steady, her stillness mistaken for guilt but rooted in something else, dignity. Elias's chest burned. He knew that posture. It was the same one he wore when men had spat his name in saloons, when his brother's debts fell on his shoulders, when silence was the only shield he had left. When a sheriff called for someone to hold her steady, Elias's body moved before thought could catch him. His voice came rough, but it carried. Lay it on me instead. A hush fell, sharp as a blade. Then gasps. Laughter in pockets. A fool's choice, they said. Maybe worse. But Elias stood rooted, jaw set against the storm. The whip cracked through the air with the sound of fire splitting timber. The first lash burned across his back and staggered him forward. The second tore deeper, drawing blood through cloth. His teeth clenched, but no cry left his throat. The crowd leaned closer, hungry. Again and again, the whip fell. 30 strokes in all, each one a hymn of pain sung into his flesh. His shirt clung wet and red, his vision dimmed, yet his silence held. Through the haze, his gaze met hers. Winyan's eyes glistened, tears falling without sound. She did not weep aloud, but her sorrow cut sharper than the whip itself. When it was done, Elias dropped to one knee, breath ripped ragged. No hand reached to steady him. Only hers, fleeting, hidden by the press of people. He rose alone and walked from the square, the crowd parting not out of respect, but relief that his suffering had ended. By nightfall he lay in his cabin, pain pressing like fire through his back. He tried binding his wounds, but his hands shook. Then came soft footsteps at his door. She entered, carrying a bowl of herbs, her shawl pulled tight around her. Elias meant to protest, pride rising to his lips, but her gaze hushed him before words could form. She washed the lashes with water cool as stream stones, pressed poultice against the rawness. Her fingers were steady, tender. Elias closed his eyes, letting her care stitch silence into his pain. He did not thank her, could not. Words would have broken the moment, scattered it like chaff in the wind. Instead, when she laid a cloth across his back, he let the silence speak for him. In that silence, something unspoken was born. The days that followed unfolded like pages of slow prayer. At dawn, Elias would find bread left on his porch, wrapped in cloth still warm from her hands. At dusk, Winyan appeared without knocking, carrying herbs and ointments that smelled of earth and pine. She tended his back with care, so steady it felt older than both their lives. as if her touch carried the memory of generations. He did not ask why she came, and she never offered reason. Their words were few, but their silences began to take shape, spaces where something fragile grew, not named, not hurried, only felt. In town, the whispers thickened like storm clouds. Men at the saloon muttered that Elias had thrown away his pride for a woman who didn't belong. Women turned their faces from Winyin, calling her a curse behind her back. Children pointed at the scars beneath Elias's shirt as though they were marks of shame. Yet he no longer lowered his head. The pain in his body had hardened him into something else, a man unafraid to meet the eyes of those who judged. The quiet bond with Winyin gave him weight where once he'd been hollow. Then one morning, the horizon changed. Dust rose in a wide arc, shimmering in the early light. The sound of hooves rolled like distant thunder. The town braced, shutters closing, rifles lifted. A band of Lakota riders descended into Dry Creek, proud and unyielding, their horses snorting steam. Fear stiffened the air. The people expected vengeance. Elias stood waiting in the square, though his heart beat hard against his ribs. Winyin was beside him, shawl drawn close, her face unreadable. The riders dismounted. At their head stood a man broad of chest, hair braided with streaks of gray. Her father. 2 younger men flanked him. Her brothers, their eyes sharp as flint. They carried themselves like men of storms, yet their gaze, when it rested on Elias, held no fury. The father spoke first, his voice measured, carried across the silence. Winyin translated softly, her words like falling water. You bore the lashes meant for my daughter. You carried shame that was not yours. Among us, such a man is not mocked. He is honored. The crowd's breath caught. Even the sheriff, standing stiff at the edge, shifted uneasily. From his hands, the father laid down a woven blanket, rich with symbols. Its pattern sang of union, of kinship, of shared path. His next words, spoken with gravity, fell like stones into still water. We bring a pact. If you will, she will be your wife. Not as debt, but as bond. The square fell silent. Elias's breath grew heavy, his thoughts clouded by disbelief. Marriage? A pact of honor? Around him, murmurs swelled, some angry, some astonished. He looked to Winyin. She stood steady, eyes bright with a strange mixture of fear and hope. She did not move toward him, did not plead, only waited. For a long moment, Elias could not find his voice. His back burned with memory of the lashes, but his heart trembled for a different reason. Slowly, he stepped forward. With scarred, roughened hands, he reached for the blanket. He did not raise it high, nor make boast. He only pressed it to his chest, eyes wet with tears he could not hide. Winyin's hand slid into his, warm, certain. In that simple gesture, the town faded away. The stares, the whispers, the weight of judgment scattered like leaves in wind. Only her hand remained, the unspoken truth of 2 souls who had chosen each other not with words but with sacrifice. The riders bowed their heads, their honor satisfied. The townsfolk stood hushed, their scorn muted in the face of something they could not name. Elias and Winyin stood side by side, a bridge built not by law but by courage. That night, beneath a sky jeweled with stars, Elias sat by his cabin fire with Winyin at his side. His back still throbbed with pain, but it no longer felt like shame. It felt like proof that sometimes we must break the body to free the spirit. And if you're listening, friend, let this truth settle in your heart. Scars are not disgrace. They're stories carved into us, reminders of the moments we stood for love when the world turned away. Sometimes the lashes we take for another become the bridge that carries us home.